Don't you just love how the left likes to demonstrate its fidelity to democracy? Isn't it wonderful to behold? I mean, Britain got precisely what the liberal left has wanted for months. They got what amounted to a second referendum on Brexit, and yet they lost. So as a result, leftists are doing what they do best. They're having a collective temper tantrum. Greetings, everyone. It's a joy and delight to be with you. As always, if you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss a single video analyzing celebrating the inevitable collapse of globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age centered on nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. Before we look at the riots in London and the destruction of the Labour Party, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's none other than the one, the only, Robert Herjavec, the multimillionaire investor, now TV star from the hit show Shark Tank. Robert has become a great friend of this channel, and he has an amazing opportunity for you. He and his team of ultra-successful angel investors are here to help you get in on ground floor investment opportunities for as low as just $50. So watch the free video at getangelrich.com or click on the link in the description below to see how you can participate in these potentially lucrative deals before they go mainstream. Sounds good to me. So don't wait. Check out the video at getangelrich.com. Well, I mean, so much for democracy, right? We were told over the last 3 years that denying Brits a second referendum was an assault on all things democratic. When Boris disbanded Parliament a couple of months back, left-wing lunatics accused him of trashing the democracy of our ancestors. I kid you not, that was a headline from the ultra-left Guardian. After the British Supreme Court ordered Parliament back in session, the New York Times celebrated that decision with the headline, "Boris Johnson loses to democracy." So isn't it wonderful to see that just hours after Boris and the Conservatives won landslide victories in the ultimate expression of British democracy, is it not wonderful to see leftists take to the streets and trash and protest and physically attempt to destroy the very democracy that they were just hours before demanding? Now, if you're not familiar with what's been going on in Britain since the election Thursday night, chaos has erupted in the streets of London as anti-Brexit leftists came out to protest the massive landslide win of the Tories and the guarantee now of at least some kind of Brexit at the end of January. Breitbart's reporting that a bunch of socialists, Antifa activists, and anti-Brexiteers have taken to the streets to protest what they call the racism and sexism and homophobia, the pigs in Britain that voted for the Tories. A number of the protesters actually called for revolution and chanted, "Not my prime minister," and the like, right? It's being reported, actually, that there were signs that read, "Deny Tory rule," as well as "Open borders, no deportations." Yeah, just ask Jeremy Corbyn what a winning message that was. Of course, the protests turned violent because that's what leftism ultimately is, as much as the corporatist, globalist, Marxist media tries to paint us, nationalist populists, as the violent ones and leftist liberals as the peaceful paragons of democracy. It's actually the opposite, right? It's the nationalist populists who are the ones, we're the ones who want more democracy. We're the ones who want more elections. We're the ones who want more referendums, right? We want more democratic representation. And it's the left-wing liberals that always resort to violence ultimately to get their way, right? They always ultimately resort to some kind of dictatorial tyranny, some kind of bullying to inflict their lunacy on the world. And that's exactly what we're seeing here going on in Britain. Keep in mind, the Marxist media has actually come out in favor of, remember this, they've actually defended milkshaking right-wing politicians and leaders, right, as a harmless but effective form of democratic protest against their hate-filled policies of the right. And remember, too, that Nigel Farage, who was the victim of milkshaking on the campaign trail back in May for the European elections, Farage warned that whether the Marxist media liked it or not, they were actively complying with what is undeniably a form of physical assault. Physical assault has now been deemed acceptable and permissible. Screw that. Physical assault is now being lauded and recommended and cheered by the Marxist media, right? By left-wing activists disguised as journalists and reporters, who, by the way, were totally and completely and utterly humiliated on Thursday with the Tory landslide, were they not? The BBC, Channel 4, Guardian, Daily Mirror, these left-wing spasmodics were completely and totally repudiated by the British public, and rightly so. Their globalist left-wing worldview is collapsing. There is absolutely nothing they can do about it. And so, if they're collapsing, if their world is collapsing, well, then they're going to do their best to assault and destroy our rising new conservative age. And hence, you have the violence and the insanity on the streets of London. Now, while all of this is going on, as if it doesn't get better, the post-mortem is being written on Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, which suffered their worst defeat since the 1930s, 1935 to be exact. Corbyn's Labour Party lost in regions that have been Labour's safe seats for decades. We saw the very same dynamics operative here in the States, right? In the 2016 election, where the Democrats lost over 200 counties that had voted Democrat in every presidential election for the last 30 years. In Britain, just like in the States, you had the collapse of what they call their red wall. Okay, now, just in case you don't know, for our American viewers, in Europe, red is the color of the Marxist liberals. Blue is the color for the good guys, the conservatives, okay? It's, of course, the other way around here in the States. So Hillary Clinton went into 2016 with a supposed blue wall, right? These are states that voted Democrat in every election since the 1980s. Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Well, in Britain, they would call that the red wall, okay? Nice and easy. You just have to remember the difference, right? And of course, just as Hillary's blue wall collapsed in 2016, so Jeremy Corbyn's red wall, right, collapsed. So otherwise, reliably, Labour seats in Darlington and Rother Valley and Bolsover and Blythe Valley, all of which turned to the Tories. It seems that they did so for the exact same reasons as the Democrats lost Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Labor lost the working class, and taking the sharp turn to the left, embracing cultural Marxist identity politics and open borders and globalist norms, they alienated their traditional voting base of blue-collar workers who have been suffering from globalist norms. And in so doing, the pro-Brexit conservatives got a whole new voting constituency, just like the Republicans did with Trump in 2016 and in 2020. And this is why we argue all the time on this channel that the new political force of the future is a coalition of nationalists, populists, and traditionalists. The new conservative age that's rising is an age centered on border security, economic security, and cultural security, which combine to reassert and revitalize the sovereign nation state as over and against the George Soros-financed open societies of globalism and cosmopolitanism and the like. By the way, you'll love this. I just uploaded a video of George Soros actually admitting that the globalist world order is collapsing. I mean, you're not going to believe this isn't like right-wing wishful thinking here. These are his own words. You'll hear his own voice. I include excerpts from an interview he recently did with National Public Radio, and he fully admits that his globalist world order is being completely and totally wiped out. It's being rejected by world population. So you can check it out by clicking on the link above. I'll also click it. I will link it down below for you as well in the pinned comment section. Make sure you click it. And he's right, by the way. What we saw on Thursday was a total and complete decimation of the globalist coalition, the cultural Marxist coalition of Jeremy Corbyn, and in many respects, the destruction of labor. Now, again, it's not as if Labor wasn't warned about this. They were warned by plenty of pundits and commentators that a Corbyn-led cultural Marxism would be the death knell for labor. And it would be the death knell precisely because more and more people recognize that the frames of reference necessary for cultural Marxism are dying. They're collapsing all over the world. Populations are turning away from globalism, and they're turning away from cosmopolitanism. They're turning away from liberalism and leftism. and they are re-embracing nation, culture, custom, and tradition. Again, I know that the cultural Marxist media in general has yet to actually realize that, but there are plenty of astute pundits who recognize it, and Labour has no excuse here. They were warned. They willingly embraced Jeremy Corbyn and his brand of Corbynomics, his Marxism, his politically correct cultural Marxism, and it completely destroyed them. And now their self-entitled supporters are trying to destroy London. It's the only response that a self-destructive worldview like leftist liberalism knows how to do. And it's all for naught. Left-wing liberalism is dead. Its proponents, like the media, just don't know it yet. And nationalist populism is slowly but surely taking its place as the unstoppable politics of the future. Now, to make this even sweeter, I just posted a video on how nationalist populists are taking over mainstream conservative parties throughout Europe and the United States. I think it's going to make your weekend. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you right over there. God bless.